Welcome to the Mutiny Report. I'm Fletcher Christian. This is what it feels like to be alive right now. Today, we're talking about something that matters more to me than most people realize, and it matters more than most people realize in general. We're talking about the power dressed up as faith. We're talking about ideology wrapped up in scripture. We're talking about what happens when theology gets hijacked by politics. Politics, that's funny. Politics, and sold back to people as God's will. And the perfect example is watching Tucker Carlson sit across from Mike Huckabee and pretend they're having a spiritual conversation. And I think it's good journalism on Tucker's part. I think he's got balls of steel to even fucking go there. I'm glad he did it because he exposed something very large and tragic that's happening right now in our country. But what it was Sunday school with studio lighting. It was Mike Huckabee being the revival tent Baptist preacher he is with better microphones. It's propaganda with a cross on it. Only from Mike Huckabee. I'm not saying Tucker's doing this. I think Tucker was exposing this. But Huckabee doesn't argue theology. He literally performs it. Okay, I have a master's degree in theological studies from Liberty University. Now, I don't believe that way anymore, but I'm fucking glad I have the degree. Because what he does is he wraps geopolitical ideology in Bible verses and calls it destiny. He sells foreign policy like it's a salvation plan. It's not exegesis. Exegesis is a theological term for like understanding the words, what it meant in the Hebrew, what it meant in the Greek. You know what I mean? This is what you learn in theology school. And it's not. It's branding. And a lot of people fall for it because it sounds holy. It sounds, oh, that's Bible because he's quoting Bible. But here's the problem. Christianity, when I used to be one, I used to preach to thousands of people when I was a teenager, makes a very specific claim. The new covenant replaces the old one. That's not controversial. That's what it says in Hebrews. That's what it said. That's what Paul wrote. That's what Acts says. It's clearly the early church bleeding and fighting over circumcision, food, laws, and temple sacrifice. This was the whole point of Jesus dying on the cross. Jesus said he came to abolish the law and the prophets. That's all of the Old Testament. Okay? Paul says righteousness does not come through the Torah compliance. Now, the Torah is this early Bible, right? Acts records the decision Gentiles are not bound to Mosaic law, the law of the Jews. 2,000 years ago, this fucking argument was over. If you're a Christian, it was fucking finished, nil, done, over. But Huckabee keeps resurrecting it like a zombie in a televangelist suit. And when he leans on the Old Testament land promises and prophecy to justify modern politics, he is not doing New Testament theology. He is not being the Christian that he says he is. He's not a follower of Jesus. He's doing selective canon politics. He preaches grace on Sunday, then he quotes Leviticus on Monday for foreign policy. He tells people they're free from the law, then weaponizes the law when it suits him, when it suits Israel. This isn't interpretation. It's an ideological ventriloquism. That scripture was somebody's hand shoved up its ass. All right? Listen, I dealt with this for fucking most of my life. It was part of my thing. I grew up in this Christian, lots of people in my family are still the same way. Like, if you don't, bless Israel, curse Israel, so it's just all bullshit. If you're a real Jesus-loving Christian, that shouldn't fucking matter. If the new covenant abolished binding Mosaic law, which is historic Christian orthodoxy, whether televangelists like it or not, then theocratic nationalism and Christian nationalism, for that matter, collapses. It dies fucking instantly. The church becomes transnational, neither Jew nor Greek. Kingdom is not of this world. Weapons are not carnal. This is all Bible. That's not woke theology. It's fucking Bible 101. But Huckabee treats those verses like fine print at the bottom of a credit card contract. Because his framework is not spiritual. It's civilizational. It's Zionist. It's Christian Zionism dressed up as theology. It's American empire baptized in prophecy water. It's foreign policy with incense. American power plus Israeli state policy plus cherry-picked verses equals God's will. It sounds biblical, but it's not biblical because it ignores the story the Bible actually tells. A story where tribal religion gets dismantled, where God stops being a national mascot, where holiness stops being about land and it starts being about people. But that story is inconvenient for empires, so they rewrite it. Guess who rewrote it many times? Other empires. Guess who wrote it the first time? An empire. Here's the sleight of hand. Old covenant land promises become eternal political deeds. New covenant ethics: love your enemies, reject violence, refuse domination, get demoted to symbolic. Violence is real, peace is a metaphor. Bombs are practical, compassion is theoretical. That's not theology. It's not even belief in what you believe. That's ideological triage. That's deciding which verses get to live and which ones get buried. I saw this thing the other day on TV where Trump was saying he's the most Christian president ever. It's like, dude, I guess, yeah, in today's day and age, because Christians are fucking hypocrisy. Like, because Christians are fucking hypocrites. The New Testament detonates religious nationalism. Covenant is about Christ, not soil. Holiness is about people, not borders. The temple is flesh and breath, not concrete and fucking checkpoints. Take that seriously. And holy real estate collapses like a bad pyramid scheme. Huckabee cannot afford collapse, so he pretends it never happened. When he talks about prophecy, he sounds authoritative because he's confident, because he's a Baptist minister. He's been doing it his whole life. But confidence is not scholarship. There's no historical context for this, no second temple Judaism, no covenant theology, no serious debate, no doubt, just certainty. And there's one thing that I'll tell you right now. If any person tells you that they know everything and they know exactly what's going on and this is the way, or in any religion or science or whatever, you better turn around and run the opposite fucking direction, because nobody does. So this isn't about coherence. It's about people packaging shit for volume, or to confuse volume with truth. It's about identity. It tells evangelicals, your faith is not just spiritual, it's territorial, it's political, it's tribal. Jesus becomes a mascot, the cross becomes campaign logo, salvation becomes a voting block, religion turns into a team jersey. These people actually wanted if they wanted Old Testament literalism, they'd take all of it. Jubilee economics, which means every 7 years debts get canceled. Debt forgiveness, that's like what I'm just saying. Land redistribution, you're going to get your land back. Usury bans, harsh internal law. Don't wear fabrics that have cotton and polyester. There's got to be 100%. Nobody wants that. It's like Sharia law. They want conquest energy without responsibility, divine approval without inconvenience. If they wanted the New Testament faith, love your enemies, reject war, forgive endlessly, carry your cross, not a fucking flag. That doesn't fundraise well. That doesn't build empires. That doesn't get you booked on cable news. So they skip it. So here's the bottom line. You cannot preach grace while resurrecting law for politics. You cannot preach Christ while campaigning for conquest. You cannot quote Paul while practicing Caesar. You cannot worship Jesus and save an empire. That is not Christianity. That's narrative engineering with incense and microphones. That's ideology pretending to be God. And when nobody challenges it, it stops being church stock. It becomes policy. It becomes bombs justified by Bible verses. It becomes suffering dressed up as prophecy. It becomes kids buried under rubble while pastors say it's God's plan. And I'm done pretending that's fucking faith. That's abuse. It's spiritual malpractice. It's power hiding behind scripture. And if you care about truth, if you care about faith, if you care about humanity, you have to call it out, especially when it's uncomfortable, because silence is how this shit survives. Stay loud, stay human, and for fuck's sake, stay mutinous. Mutiny out.